What if the glitter-drenched empire Sean Diddy Combs built on platinum hits and sold-out parties was really held together by raw fear? For the past 2 weeks in a Manhattan courtroom, 16 witnesses, from hotel guards to Grammy-winning artists, have described a secret world of candlelit freak-offs, threats, and brutality that prosecutors say powered the bad boy brand. Combs, now 55, stands accused of racketeering and sex trafficking conspiracies that could lock him away for life if a single jury vote turns against him. Yet beyond the headlines lies a story of loyalty bought, silence enforced, and a pop culture icon who may have blurred the line between fantasy and terror. Stick around, because what happens inside that courtroom could expose an underground playbook for controlling fame, one that might shake the music industry long after the final verdict. Long before prosecutors spoke of racketeering and freak-offs, Sean Combs was the scrappy 22-year-old intern sprinting across Uptown Records with demo tapes under his arm. Fired in 1993 for dreaming too loud, he launched Bad Boy Records that same week, signing the notorious B.I.G., releasing Juicy, and watching his fledgling label mushroom to an estimated $100 million valuation within 4 years. By 1997, the hits were relentless. Combs, now answering to Puff Daddy, dropped Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, then conquered the Hot 100 with I'll Be Missing You, while a string of Bad Boy singles kept the label's logo flashing across MTV all summer. His formula was simple: glossy hooks, blockbuster videos, and a public persona that blended CEO swagger with street corner bravado. The empire soon sprawled beyond music. A 50% profit stake in Ciroc vodka, a fashion line that paraded down New York runways, and Revolt TV turned Combs into hip-hop's first near-billionaire. A man who threw $3 million parties just to celebrate being in Miami on a Tuesday. Industry gossip called him untouchable, a mogul whose 5-star suites allegedly came with a strict no-camera rule. But away from the flashing lights, guests whispered about doors that locked from the inside and hotel staff grumbling about spilled wax and pools of oil. The bigger the legend grew, the darker the rumors became, and that's where our story turns next. They weren't A-list after-parties or secret jam sessions. Witnesses say they were something darker. In hushed tones, insiders describe suites turned into low-lit sets, mirrors draped, music pulsing, bowls of baby oil warming in water, and Sean Combs seated off to the side, directing who touched whom and when. Prosecutors argue these freak-offs blurred consent, fueling a pattern of control that now anchors the racketeering case. 2 paid companions, Daniel Phillip and Sheree Hayes, told jurors they were flown in, handed stacks of cash, and warned not to speak unless spoken to. Phillip testified he watched Combs hurl a bottle at Cassie Ventura, then drag her by the hair when she hesitated to obey. Hayes recalled baby oil rituals and the mogul's silent stare from behind a veil. Their stories matched hotel logs noting excessive wax and oil-soaked carpets, as well as a former assistant's claim that he carried a hotel bag loaded with candles and lubricant whenever Combs summoned him. Hotel manager Frederick Zemmour testified that entire floors sometimes went out of order after Combs checked out, while Homeland Security agents say they later found sex toys stacked beside loaded firearms in his Miami mansion. Evidence, prosecutors insist, that pleasure and intimidation were 2 sides of the same coin. Reports claim guests who tried to leave were met with threats or hush payments, though those allegations remain unproven. But if these late-night rituals raised eyebrows, the bruises and broken bottles that followed, witnesses say, raised alarms, and nowhere were those alarms louder than in Cassie Ventura's decade-long ordeal, which will unravel next. Cassie Ventura was just 19 when Sean Combs signed her in 2005, an R&B fairy tale that, she says, spiraled into an 11-year maze of control. In court, she traced the shift from rosy studio sessions to nights ruled by Combs's private freak-offs, where drugs, cameras, and paid strangers blurred the word yes. The violence, she testified, surfaced early and only escalated. A 2010 beating in a Beverly Hills suite. A March 5, 2016 hallway clip, now viral, showing Combs slamming her to the ground and dragging her by the hair while hotel security looked on. Threats followed bruises. Cassie's mother told jurors she tapped a home equity loan for $20,000 after Combs allegedly menaced her with a sex tape leak. The cash was wired, then mysteriously returned days later. Cassie herself recalled moments so bleak she nearly walked into traffic to end it all. A confession delivered through tears while pregnant during 4 straight days on the stand this May. She finally left in 2018, filed a civil suit in 2023 that settled for roughly $20 million, and triggered the federal probe that now frames Combs as the boss of a racketeering ring. But Cassie's voice was only the first crack in the facade. As the gallery soon learned, others had been watching and remembering every silent order. One uneasy whisper can be dismissed as rumor. 5 voices echoing the same nightmare become a chorus the jury can't ignore. First came hotel guard Israel Flores, who rushed to a 2016 distress call and found Cassie Ventura tear-streaked, Combs looming, a purple bruise blooming under her eye. He says Combs waved a fat roll of cash and urged him to take care of this, an offer the guard refused while surveillance screens replayed the assault in cold detail. Moments like those, makeup artist Mila Morales testified, were hardly rare. She recalled waking in a Beverly Hills suite to Combs' furious shouts, then nursing Ventura's swollen lip and knots on her head, while a doctor friend warned of concussion. Fear, Morales admitted, kept her from dialing 911. Former aide George Kaplan said he finally quit fixing the mayhem after 15 months of scrubbing candle wax from carpets and ferrying duffel bags of drugs. Yet what haunted him most were 3 violent episodes he claims he witnessed, including Cassie sobbing and bruised in Combs' bed. Even superstar Kid Cudi took the stand, describing an alleged break-in and the 2012 firebombing of his Porsche after Combs learned he was dating Ventura, a story the defense calls speculative and is fighting to strike, but one that mirrors Cassie's own claim that Combs vowed to blow up that car. To help jurors decode why victims stay, psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes explained trauma bonds, those invisible chains that tether people to their abusers long after the first punch. Though she never examined Ventura directly, Hughes's portrait of fear, isolation, and intermittent affection dovetails with a decade of Cassie's diary-like testimony. 5 witnesses, 5 vantage points, yet the same pattern of control and dread, and prosecutors say the arsenal backing that control was more than psychological. In the next section, we'll examine the weapons, hush payments, and alleged blackmail that turned whispered danger into open menace. When federal agents rammed the gates of Combs' Star Island mansion in March 2024, they say they walked into a tableau where pleasure and menace shared the same closet. Assault rifle parts with their serial numbers gouged off sat just feet from shelves of baby oil bottles, lingerie, and stiletto heels. Items witnesses called the starter kit for his late-night freak-offs. Prosecutors argue the optics were the strategy. A fully loaded handgun and 2 AR-15 lowers, displayed in court like grim trophies, reinforced a silent message: disobey, and the party could turn lethal. Homeland Security agent Gerard Gannon told jurors it took nearly 90 agents to breach the property precisely because, in their view, Combs curated an aura of untouchability backed by firepower. Fear, though, wasn't the only currency. Cassie's mother, Regina Ventura, testified she drained a home equity loan to wire Combs $20,000 after he allegedly threatened to leak explicit tapes of her daughter, a demand he later returned, prosecutors say, once control was reestablished. And when best friend Carrie Morgan tried to distance herself, she testified she accepted $30,000 and a strict NDA, a deal she now calls hush money for silence bought under duress. Industry chatter, unverified but persistent, speaks of similar payouts to bodyguards, assistants, and hotel staff who saw too much. Reports claim envelopes of cash or sudden promotions followed any incident that flirted with police attention, though no paper trail has surfaced publicly. These claims remain rumors, yet they echo the sworn testimony that payments and threats moved in lockstep whenever bruises or broken furniture threatened to reach TMZ. Taken together, the weapons, the whispered buy-offs, and the blackmail emails sketch a control system that prosecutors say kept victims compliant and skeptics quiet. An alleged racketeering blueprint far larger than one man's temper. But raids and gun displays were only the beginning. In the next section, we'll watch Combs' billion-dollar empire buckle under canceled deals, frozen accounts, and a looming RICO verdict that could redraw the map of celebrity power. On March 25, 2024, Homeland Security agents in armored trucks and patrol boats swarmed Combs' $48 million Star Island mansion. Inside, jurors later heard they found a tableau equal parts nightclub and armory, AR-15 parts with scratched-off serial numbers, loaded magazines, lingerie, sex toys, and more than 24 bottles of baby oil and Astroglide. evidence prosecutors say linked pleasure to intimidation. That haul now sits in courtroom photos beside Combs' RICO indictment. Legal analysts warned the same house he spent $35 million upgrading could be seized if the jury decides it was used or purchased with criminal proceeds. Another reminder that the empire's marble floors rest on shaky ground. The financial aftershocks landed just as hard. Spirit's giant Diageo, once Combs' billion-dollar partner in Ciroc and De Leon, settled its bitter lawsuit and walked away, ending a 15-year deal that had minted him hip-hop's first liquor mogul. Within months, Combs sold his entire stake in Revolt TV, leaving employees as the new majority owners and wiping his name from the masthead of the network he founded in 2013. And the bleeding didn't stop there. A Rolling Stone tally says 18 brands have now cut ties with Empower Global, his e-commerce venture, citing the seriousness of the allegations and fear of reputational splash damage. Raids, lost partnerships, looming asset forfeiture. Each blow chips at an aura of untouchability that once seemed bulletproof. Yet even as the walls close in, industry whispers suggest Combs wasn't the only power player behind those locked hotel doors. In the next section, we'll sift through the unverified names and unanswered questions still buzzing around the courtroom hallways. Even after 16 witnesses and 2 weeks of headline-grabbing testimony, the gallery still buzzes with the names not yet called. Court filings hint that sealed grand jury sessions are still rolling, and legal analysts say prosecutors could amend the indictment to sweep in additional defendants if fresh evidence lands on the judge's desk. One former federal prosecutor told the BBC that the government is still actively producing discovery, meaning the case file can grow, and so can the cast list. Inside the Manhattan courtroom, jurors have already seen a preview of celebrity splash damage. During voir dire, they were handed a list of more than 100 well-known figures, from Kanye West and Michael B. Jordan to Mike Myers. Names lawyers warned might surface as the story widens. Attorneys never explained why those stars appear, and no evidence so far links them to wrongdoing. But the list alone signals how far the prosecution's spotlight could swing. Industry gossip, again unverified, also keeps circling former partners in Combs' business orbit. Trade reporters whisper that sealed subpoenas have landed at 2 liquor distributors and a streaming platform that once bankrolled Revolt TV, fueling speculation that financial records could map cash flows around alleged hush payments. Prosecutors haven't confirmed any of this, and defense attorneys dismiss it as wish casting. Yet the mere possibility gives anxious executives another reason to track every courtroom sidebar. Whether these whispers harden into evidence or dissolve under oath remains the looming question. For now, the jury must sift testimony from rumor, but the public intrigue, fueled by grand jury secrecy, celebrity cameos, and the tantalizing phrase, superseding indictment, shows no sign of cooling. And with Combs' former assistant and 2 LA fire investigators slated for the next round of witnesses, prosecutors may finally connect those whispers to the smoke that's been hanging over Bad Boy's legacy. Rumors suggest those new names might read like a festival lineup. In a Florida civil suit filed last month, an accuser claimed, without hard proof, that Jay-Z and Beyoncé were present at a Miami freak-off, describing them only as stunned onlookers. Both stars were not sued, and Jay-Z's lawyer calls the allegation nonsense. Separate filings from late 2024 even floated an unverified assault claim against Jay-Z dating back to 2000, which he blasted as idiotic extortion. None of these assertions have been tested in criminal court, and all remain allegations. Inside the Manhattan courtroom, jurors have already seen a preview of celebrity splash damage. During voir dire, they were handed a list of more than 100 well-known figures, from Kanye West and Michael B. Jordan to Mike Myers, names lawyers warned might surface as the story widens. Attorneys never explained why those stars appear, and no evidence so far links them to wrongdoing, but the list alone signals how far the prosecution's spotlight could swing. Industry gossip, again unverified, also keeps circling former partners in Combs' business orbit. Trade reporters whisper that sealed subpoenas have landed at 2 liquor distributors and a streaming platform that once bankrolled Revolt TV, fueling speculation that financial records could map cash flows around alleged hush payments. Prosecutors haven't confirmed any of this, and defense attorneys dismiss it as wish-casting. Yet the mere possibility gives anxious executives another reason to track every courtroom sidebar. Whether these whispers harden into evidence or dissolve under oath remains the looming question. For now, the jury jury must sift testimony from rumor, but the public intrigue, fueled by grand jury secrecy, celebrity cameos, and the tantalizing phrase, superseding indictment, shows no sign of cooling. And with Combs's former assistant and 2 LA fire investigators slated for the next round of witnesses, prosecutors may finally connect those whispers to the smoke that's been hanging over Bad Boy's legacy. Sean Diddy Combs once boasted that nobody could hold him down, but a single guilty verdict on the racketeering counts he now faces could keep the 55-year-old mogul behind bars for life. After 16 witnesses and 2 explosive weeks, jurors have watched the myth of the untouchable hitmaker unravel into a portrait of candle wax rituals, blackmail emails, and loaded weapons. Yet this trial is no longer just Diddy versus Cassie. It has become a case study in how money, fame, and a tightly knit inner circle can fortify abuse, and how quickly that fortress cracks when insiders start talking under oath. Former assistant Capricorn Clark, now on the stand after years of whispered stories, is linking Combs' staff to break-ins, threats, and kidnappings, potentially tying the whole machine together for prosecutors. And the story isn't finished. Court schedules project at least 4 more weeks of testimony. Los Angeles fire and police officials are expected next to dissect the 2012 Porsche firebombing, followed by financial experts tracing cash meant to silence witnesses. Only then will 12 jurors disappear to decide whether Combs ran a criminal enterprise, with a verdict now eyed for late June. While Combs' brands fracture, Cyrock partnership dissolved, Revolt TV ownership surrendered, the wider music industry is bracing. Attorneys say sealed subpoenas for distributors and streaming platforms could widen the splash radius, and rumors of a superseding indictment keep boardrooms on edge. Power once measured in platinum plaques is suddenly being tallied in seized assets and shredded NDAs. So after the lights fade and the last witness steps down, ask yourself, if a billion-dollar empire can crumble on sworn testimony, what other kingdoms might be built on the same silent bargains? The next few weeks may redraw the map of celebrity power, and this jury holds the pen.